Before joining Duke in 2015, she was director and project director for academic technology services at the University of Texas MD Anderson Cancer Center. Her research interests include motivational design, user-centered design, and resilience models. Okay, Nancy, take it away. Take us down the path of new reality.
Okay. Are we starting at 120 or 130?
I think it's is it 120? Let me look again. I guess I can redo the whole introduction. Look at how anxious I am. It's at 1:30. Well, at least I practiced, huh?
Yeah, you did that beautifully. You did that beautifully.
I'll do it again in 10 minutes.
I'm recording. Hi, everybody. My name is Nancy Hill, and I'm the Senior Educational Technology Specialist at Duke University School of Nursing. And today I'm going to be talking to you about the new world of Sakai 11. It's the world that's possible now due to the very wise inclusion of responsive design in Sakai 11, or as I like to call it, take the red pill, Neo. As you probably know, that's a reference to the emblematic conversation between Keanu Reeves and Lawrence Fishburne in the movie The Matrix. Neo was offered a choice between remaining in kind of blissful ignorance, really, or being thrust into a new enlightenment that was sometimes a painful awareness of reality. And so I will understand, by the way, if some of you decide that it's time to jump off this presentation right now. But Morpheus is the name that was given to the portal that's available in Sakai 11, and thus the name of this session. Morpheus offers responsive design. And what exactly does that mean? It means that Sakai will now work on any device that you have: desktop, laptop, mobile, tablet, notebook. without the need to download an app or maintain a separate mobile dedicated version of any kind. So, as you can imagine, there has been quite a bit of excitement in the community around the announcement. This has been talked about for some time, that this responsive design feature was going to be included with Sakai 11. But as I was listening to the conversations, it seemed like a lot of the buzz went kind of along these lines. And yes, it's true. The students will be able to listen to recorded lectures on their phones. Absolutely true. It's also true that they can read instructional materials on their phones. They can take quizzes on their phones or their iPads and on and on. But it seems to me that we may be thinking a little too small. It's as if we have a new Learjet and we're super excited because we think that we can get to Kroger more quickly. So I would like for us to take a few minutes today to talk about how we can aim a little bit higher. And that was the reason for writing up the abstract and having some time to talk with you today. I'm an instructional designer, so of course my brain goes down the path of how to create learning opportunities to take advantages of the differences that mobile offers to us. And maybe that's a good place to start. So what is all the fuss about? Isn't mobile just the same stuff, but poured into a tiny screen? It's really not. So here are some of the things that get instructional designers like you and I and like me excited when we think about the possibilities for mobile learning and the way that we can design instruction for it. The first on the list is the flexibility that it offers. We hear a lot about convenience, anytime, anywhere, but it isn't just about the delivery. It's the implications for how that impacts the way that the learners interact with the content. We all know about the importance of engagement. We spend a lot of time talking about it. Two of my colleagues gave a session on it earlier today in terms of increasing engagement. It was very well attended. There was a lot of good discussion because it's something that is very near and dear to all of us. Think about the opportunities that a world of existing apps, plus the tools that are in Sakai, plus being able to offer those apps and those activities on a device that the learner is already using all the time, that's always with them. That is a clear win for engagement. In terms of context, this is the big one that makes a huge difference in terms of instructional value, in my opinion. Think relevance, near transfer of skill. We are able to design instruction that puts the learner into the environment where they're going to be practicing that new skill and applying that new knowledge. How cool is that? And then the communication, phones are sometimes used for that as well, as we know, but we're also talking about the possibility for text, for email, group chats, social media, all of the normal communication devices, but this time supporting learning and using their preferred device for communication. For some disciplines, location aware, the GPS function, has been a game changer. So that's definitely an advantage that mobile learning offers. And the immediacy and time shifting are related. We can schedule prompts, we can use the announcements, hints, we can deliver updates, and we can deliver them throughout the day and throughout the week, rather than needing to wait until the next time we see the learners at class. So we're not going to talk today about the obvious advantages and the applications that readily come to mind. The classic of the ability to do real-time field work in science courses. You've probably seen sessions on that or read about Chris Deedy at Harvard. He's been doing that for about a decade or more, long before mobile learning became such a buzzword. Or the business and industry training equivalent of that is probably something like the on-the-spot performance support that sales staff members are able to take advantage of with mobile. Those are a given. But instead, I think it may be helpful to organize our ideas and the sample activities we're going to talk about around the old standard of Bloom's taxonomy. And granted, this is the newer version from 2001, so if you're like me, still kind of getting used to it. I miss the synthesis, but I do understand the reason that they decided to put some revisions in place. As you have no doubt heard endless times, Bloom put together a framework for different learning goals. And you have the 6 levels from remembering or recall to creating something new or synthesis. It involves progressively more and more cognitive juice, cognitive work to accomplish the goals. So let's use this framework and take a look at some examples where Sakai's new mobile capability in responsive design can be an advantage in designing instruction and in delivering instruction, whether it's face-to-face or online. I suspect you're going to have a lot of ideas to share as well. So the first is remembering. This is the old skill and drill. Anything that students need to memorize or master through rote practice can fall into this category. So some of the most common requests from both academia and industry are for practice tests, for licensure, board review, just about anything. APA style is also something that students use frequently in just about any class, so that's also a possibility, anything that you want them to be able to memorize. So skill and drill is to use this model for, particularly since the web content tool means that you can link just about anything. So here are a couple of examples that I thought of, and I'm sure that you have many others. Quizlet. If you've been around for any length of time, you are probably familiar with Quizlet, and by the way, they also have a responsive design site, so it's a win-win. You don't have to have an app. So if you link this in the left nav of your course site, then you have a handy Quizlet that they can use for skill and drill on their mobile. This is a couple of screenshots. These are a couple of screenshots from my phone, and I just set up some terms from the do not use abbreviation list that medical residents, when they're coming in, need to learn. And they can learn it in a number of different varieties. These are not deep conceptual kinds of things. It's just material that's very important that they do need to familiarize with. The app on the left is an ear training, and again, it's rote practice, doing it over and over and over. The app on the right is language learning. So any of these you can use. The students can practice these skills on their phone and master the skill and drill. Any of those would relate to recall and remember. Understand basically asks the students to give a way to demonstrate, I get it. They've assimilated the information in their mind. They are able to recognize when it's correct. And this may be one of the greatest opportunities for creativity in using mobile design, which translates to engagement, frankly, and fun. So, for example, here's a simple math activity that I put together using the tests and quizzes tool. It takes advantage of the ability that Sakai offers to upload images and video as a required response to a question type. So here's the way that it looks in Sakai. You can see I've asked them to use their mobile device to capture 5 different geometric shapes and take a picture with it and upload that and label it. Here's how that looks when I load that on my phone. It gives me the option to take an existing photo from my library, to access my iCloud, or to take a new photo or video with my phone. So again, these are things, I happen to be using my iPhone, but smartphones, and we know that 98% of students carry these with them in higher ed. Smartphones have cameras, and they even have the option that if they're one of the 2% and they don't have a smartphone, they can use a digital camera or any kind of camera to take a photo and upload it. but it's a new way to get them to apply and demonstrate that they get it. So anytime your learning objectives start with demonstrate understanding of, and how often do we see that? It's a good opportunity to use this particular aspect of mobile design. They can demonstrate understanding of a photographic concept, like white balance, or of an oral concept, a procedure, a policy, a regulation, anything that that you can think of that they can capture in a pictorial way, or capture in a video, capture an oral clip. It's going to be a creative way for them to be able to apply that and also demonstrate that they do understand it. So apply begins to move us toward that higher level of thinking. The students need to take what they've absorbed and actually generalize it to other situations that don't seem or may not seem immediately relevant to that. They basically need to figure out how that applies in the real world. So here's one example. This is a public health assignment using the assignments tool. And basically, I'm asking the students to read a couple of articles that talk about diabetes and some of the implications, the risk factors, and then they're asked to take a walk outside their work, outside their home. It can be anywhere. Look at the surroundings and identify 3 different things in their environment that represent something that would increase the risk factors for diabetes. They're asked to capture that with an image, record an audio clip. If they didn't have that, or there was some problem, they could also describe it, but generally most people enjoy recording those kind of multimedia examples. And then to explain it in a brief statement, and this uses the assignments tool ability to upload a file and to have an inline text comment as well. So here's how that looks on my phone. And here are some examples of images that might come up for the students in terms of contributing to diabetes. And I did that as a test to see how the file size would be, and it was far below the limit that Sakai has, and Duke has an additional limit just to make sure that the content is not too bulky, and it was still underneath that as well. So I think it's a very viable kind of example. Those of you that know me probably remember that 100 years ago I was a vocal performance major in undergrad. So this sample activity is for those of you that might be teaching music, or the music theory teacher that has a student who's perhaps a little like I was, have someone who doesn't quite get the magic of music theory. This is a way to make it fun and engaging, but also increase the awareness. So in this assignment, again through the assignments tool, the students are asked to review the information on tonality, modes, and chords, and then visit 2 locations that play background music. It could also be the hum from artificial lights. If you've ever noticed, they also have a pitch. Then they are to record a 10-second snippet of that background music and describe it. So here's an example again of how it looks on my phone, and how it looks to provide a sample completion. You can see the description there in the inline with the assignment. This tune was playing at Belk's department store. Identify the mode, the tonality, and the chordal structure of that, along with the attached file. So just kind of a fun way to get them to apply music theory. So analyze is kind of an interesting one in terms of thinking about how to break that information that they've just learned into component parts. This is sometimes challenging for students, and mobile offers a lot of opportunity for this as well. The one that I thought of almost immediately was art. So here we have an example within tests and quizzes of a question about cubism. Basically, it's an assignment, but it's built with the tests and quizzes tool, so it integrates with the gradebook immediately, and it's a hotspot question. So I took Picasso's 3 Musicians painting and drew a hotspot over several different aspects of it. And there are 4 of the 5 features of and characteristics of cubism. So rather than asking the students to describe it, to list it, actually having them go in and do that. And as you'll see, it says go to floor C to the cubism exhibit. That's the beauty of mobile, that they can go to the museum. This is actually the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston. And with their phone, take that with them, stand in front of the painting, and use that hotspot question to be able to identify those. The research talks about how the levels of engagement go far off the charts when you use this sort of thing. They do point out that the learning may not be more robust, I guess would be the word, than if you just teach it well in the classroom. But think about the level of engagement. Think about how much more you would enjoy this and might be able to extrapolate your learning to the next level if you're actually putting it to practice in the real world and seeing how it's relevant. So evaluate has to do with judging the value and the accuracy of information that you have learned. And again, it's that higher level of thinking, the critical thinking that we are all very excited about. So you're assimilating that knowledge and information, you're applying it to discriminate which choice is preferable. Or in other words, what's better, faster, and stronger, as Oscar of $6 million fame, $6 million man fame might say, if any of you remember that show. So one example of this within the health professions could be with incoming students in an RN program, an ABSN program, who have been in other kinds of professions. And they're learning how to do a history and physical. And perhaps they haven't done this before. So this particular assignment, there's a link to a video clip that demonstrates a history and physical exam. But the students are not only asked to watch this in terms of thinking about the correct steps for a physical, they're also asked to think about what impact the culture might have on this scenario, on the interaction, on the communication style. And it says if you were performing a general physical exam on a patient from a culture that values modesty, what adjustments might you make? And explain fully. So you can see how it took some of those basic kinds of learning facts and asked them to take it to the next step. This particular activity uses the polling tool. If it was a history and current events course, and we're all thinking about the election next Tuesday, so it says some advocacy groups have suggested mail-in ballots. Should they be offered for the presidential election? This would follow up after a reading assignment or some research, and you would ask the students to vote yes or no. This is how it would look on their phone, and here they would be able to see the results of the course. Then they would post to the discussion forum or in another venue in Sakai to explain their rationale and to back it up with the research that they have read. So the top of the heap in terms of Bloom's taxonomy, it was synthesis, now it's create, combining the parts to make a new whole. And that can be creating new knowledge, a new artifact, or it can be both. So an activity for this that would relate to any discipline would be with the assignments tool. And again, I have a sample here for you that they can use their smartphone or any other mobile device that they have to interview someone. Depending on the course, it could be an expert in the field. It could be a customer if it's some sort of business course. It could be a guest speaker. It could be a family member if they're in a psychology course or a sociology course. And within this, I tell them they can use any combination of images, audio, videotape, text. They're going to be able to submit those. They review that interview and note their observations. So that could be a response to the opinions. It could be a summary of an issue that's related to whatever the person was talking about. or if it's a sociology, ethnography kind of class, anthropology, a process note about the experience. They submit that interview and the notes in the designated area within forums, and they get peer review on it. So again, this is a very rich assignment where they are creating new knowledge, they're creating new artifacts, and the process of creating is likely to increase their engagement, but the learning processes that are going on and the critical thinking that's going on as they're creating those new processes and the new knowledge and artifacts can be enjoyable for the students and can really bring some concepts together for them. This is another sample of an assignment that, frankly, I wish someone had assigned to me in my writing classes, because I just think this would be very fun. There are 5 steps, 6 steps actually, that are identified for writing a short story. So this assignment within the announcements, and I'll tell you why in just a moment, actually gives them a little snippet of what they need to do each time to progressively work on that short story. And if you look, you can see that the beginning date is a day apart for each of these segments that are being released. That's why this is in the announcements tool, because you can schedule those announcements. So using that within the mobile as an instructional device, that they get a snippet every day that gives them more information to be able to go out and build that short story. So for example, if I remember correctly, step 2 is you write about your protagonist. You write the background, everything you can think of. Step 3, as I recall, you write about the location. So the learner is collectively building this short story, creating something new, and using each of these segments, but with the engagement of the mobile device and being able to get these little snippets in time, rather than just getting one assignment at the beginning of the week and just dealing with it on their own.
Nancy?
Yes.
This is Terry. I had to go to the phone. My microphone stopped working. But this is a good time for me to ask a question that I've posted. I wonder about having students engage in writing assignments on a mobile device.
I think
because
go ahead,
it's harder to get a great volume of content if you wanted to have somebody really reflective. The constraints of the keyboard and the texting kinds of things, really, do you find that the students are able to fully express themselves in a text message format?
Well, and that's a great question. And I would just say, number one, these are ideas and suggestions, some of which have been tried and some just came out of my head. But I think that the students might surprise you. Think about the volume of what they tweet in text. On the other hand, the prompts don't have to be they may be receiving that prompt and thinking about it and assimilating that information. That doesn't necessarily mean they would only respond on their mobile. It may be that they're responding with paper. It may be that they are writing on their computer. They're still responsible for the assignment in whatever format you ask it to be. That's what's in my head.
Okay.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
So it's not a mobile-only world.
No. It's basically taking advantage. I mean, frankly, I'm kind of shocked at how comfortable not just students, adults as well. I mean, older adults seem to be, in terms of reading a book on their phone. That's not something that I personally like, but I think sometimes we underestimate what they're willing to do on their phone. So if they wanted to write on their phone, they certainly could. But none of these are assuming that they'll only interact with the course materials by their phone.
Okay. Because I'm thinking that APA format's really hard to do on phone.
Oh, yeah. It's enough of a headache on the computer. So, I wanted to let you know a few tips about this, because as I was preparing this, I mean, this is something I've thought about, obviously, for a while. When mobile first became the buzzword. And I kept hearing from people, this is long before the Sakai responsive design, and I kept hearing from people about, oh, well, it's anytime, anywhere, and they seem to kind of stop there. So I've been mulling this over for a while, but as I was building this presentation, there were definitely some lessons learned for me that I wanted to share with you as an instructional designer. And one is keep it clean. This is just an example of the course site. This is just a sample site, but when I went in there and pulled it up on my phone, I'm like, oh dear. I mean, it can get very cluttered. We talk to our faculty about keeping the left nav as clean as possible. And when you put that on a mobile device, it can get even more cluttered. So that's definitely something that was a lesson learned for me, is that smaller space, it's the same issue times 10. Size does matter. Yes, you can expand the text size, but you know what? This was kind of a pain. I'm showing you my dirty laundry here. This was the assignment for public health that I had put together about type 2 diabetes. And this was on my phone, and I could read it and I could expand it. But what I found, and you notice this on the polling exercise, is if I use a larger font size, I didn't have to. It was much more enjoyable of an activity, and I wasn't reading tiny fonts. Because again, if they have their bubble and they're on the bus or in, some other in the waiting room somewhere in the library and they're looking at their phone, it's nicer. It's a better user experience if they don't have to adjust the font size. Location was one of the quick wins about this, and we know this, but the art exercise, I think, is just a beautiful picture of a way that this can be brought to bear to really make that instruction come to life. It doesn't have to be art. I also thought about a lab safety course that I took in compliance training, where we were asked to identify lab safety hazards. And I thought, wow, how compelling would that be to actually have them go into the lab, go into their lab, and take pictures of potential safety hazards or things that were done properly. So I think there are just so many ways to make that context and the location really bring the instruction to life. Create, which is at the top of the new bloom, definitely gets top billing. As I was putting this exercise together and I thought about what that would be like as a student, it was very exciting to think about being able to create something and all the different activities, the different levels of learning, the critical thinking that brings together. And then we know that the level of engagement when students are creating something of their very own is going to go off the charts. So if anybody has looked at YouTube, and I'm sure almost everyone has, you know that people enjoy posting all kinds of things. They enjoy posting pictures on Instagram, tweeting, and in some ways that's creating. The user-generated content has been a huge push. This is another way to channel that and make it purposeful for learning. Again, short story, and I'm showing my bias here. I just thought that was beyond cool to think of being able to give a piece of information at a time, because that's generally the way the real world works, right? Whether it's at work or in another kind of environment, you don't usually get all the information that you need to make a decision or to move forward all at once. You get a piece at a time, a nugget at a time, and you have to work a little bit and explore further. So using that for the writing assignment, I just thought was a nice way to take advantage of the advantages that mobile offers. So another lesson learned, and this is my dog, Dulcinea. Feel free to ooh and ah. She's not this little anymore, but I use this picture whenever I can because it helps people understand why I had to go in and get her. Not all tools in Sakai are created equally. And what I mean by that is I found that some of the tools worked fantastically with responsive design, and some were a little painful. Announcements worked great, and especially the ability to schedule them to be delivered later So you just go in, set them all up, and forget about it. Go have a cup of coffee, and it works great. Assignments, as I had mentioned, the ability to let the student upload and respond in line with text. Very, very nice. Tests and quizzes, because you have so much flexibility with the setting and with the question type, you can require any number of kinds of responses, everything from the skill and drill practice tests to uploading a file. The formatting editor that's within tests and quizzes also lets you embed some of those images and video clips, so it makes it easier for the students to get to. The polling tool actually worked very well with the responsive design, and web content, of course, because you're able to link. And as I said, when you're that opens the world in terms of what you can do with the new responsive design strategy. And the last is not really a tip. We know this. Research informs practice. There is a ton of research out there. We're learning a lot about mobile design, responsive design, and some of the ways that it presents opportunities for learning. I have uploaded a fact sheet, or not a fact sheet, sorry, I've uploaded a reference sheet to the site. These references and more are out there, or you can go to any search engine and put in mobile learning, and you will find just a plethora of examples and ideas that really encourage you to do that and to evaluate whether this is something that you can capitalize with the new possibilities that you have with Sakai. So really the choice is yours. Are you going to stay comfortable and take the blue pill, or are you going to dive in and take the red pill? But fair warning, once you have seen the world of possibilities, as Morpheus says, you can't go back. Questions?
Stephanie did make one comment that reassured me about students and composing on their phones. She says some students will be comfortable typing large volumes of content on their mobile devices. I know students, she says, who have typed papers on a smartphone.
Wow.
And yeah, and Jennifer Ludiana says, great ideas to promote new ideas to faculty when we go to 11 or even on 10.
Yes. Are some of you already using some of these kinds of ideas with responsive design in your schools? Which tools did I find didn't work well? Well, and again, I have a title, the Queen of the Workaround, so keep that in mind. Generally, the ones that that are not really designed for it. We used to repurpose them, and I'm not saying Duke, so they're absolved. We used to repurpose the syllabus tool for all kinds of things because we found that it was one of the easiest for new faculty to use. So we would use it for any number of things and just relabel it as something else. Because the syllabus tool is not really designed to be all things to all people, I found it a little clunky. The forums work. They can certainly respond, but in terms of some of the flexibility kinds of things that I was trying to do, didn't find it quite as easy to use. It's really a matter of trial and error. Once you have an idea for an activity, I'm sure you'll do what I did, which is I just went in and started, kicking the tires on the different tools to see what might work better and what some of the challenges and limitations were on the others.
I have a question. I understand we haven't used mobile, but we're trying to get ready for it. So we're not supposed to use tables or that sort of thing. And I'm wondering about things like the size that that you upload graphics, a picture of something. If you put in something that's fairly large, that it's more difficult for the mobile device to handle. And I'm just kind of wanting to get some feedback. Are these ideas true?
Well,
The idea
I
that
think
it's hard to manage some things on a mobile device.
Well, I think it depends on when they say large, if they mean high resolution, so the file size is bigger, something like that. For web, you don't generally need that kind of resolution.
Sorry.
So
Yeah.
yeah. I mean, it should resize it. That's part of the responsive design is resizing it. But if it's a large file size, then you probably would get some delays in loading. Unless it's something like, you know, films for radiation oncology, and I can't imagine you'd try and do that on a mobile, where you really need it to be high resolution. So you're going to look at some very detailed and large file size on that. I think most images should work pretty well. And Michelle and Linda, I'm interested about the lessons tool. I started playing with that a bit, but I didn't really need it for any of these activities just because they were pretty easy. And you know, with lessons, normally you're packaging other tools. So have you tried the lessons with the responsive design if you're on 11 already? And yes, I agree, the settings are arduous. Yeah.
For the record, Linda has said that they are using, Linda Beat, that they are using the lessons tool to create an interactive syllabus. That's nice. Michelle Droga says the settings in forums are arduous. That's true, whether it's mobile or not. And you use the student homepage tool to create. Jennifer Ludiana says, when students do interviews assignments, do you have a time limit so the videos aren't that large to upload?
And I think that's a really good point, particularly because we know audio files are larger even than video files. So most of these, if you're going to let them do it on a mobile device, capturing the actual file is not going to be as difficult as having them upload it. So if it's going to be a large file, because you're going to let them do a full interview, you would have to have some sort of alternative arrangement. We have Box here at Duke, so if you had some other kind of file storage capacity like that, that might be a way to go, because you know it's going to be tough for them to do a full-blown interview. You could ask them to transcribe it and offer highlights or something like that. The hotspot is, sorry, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I was just going to say, Linda Beef says that they have some of their biology courses with students taking images and videos of content on their phones for their field work and adding them to the clog. That's not something I'm familiar with, the clog. And they are not on Sakai 11 yet.
I think it probably means blogs.
Okay.
But I like the idea of adding them to clogs. Yeah, the hotspot's
not a new function in 11. It's been in 10. It might not be in whatever subversion of 10 you have.
And we went straight from 9 to 11, so hotspot was new to us as a question type and tests and quizzes. So I wasn't sure if that was brand new to 10 or not.
It's been in 10 for a little while. WorkWire does work for fairly large video uploads, yes.
Yes. Yeah, so I can already tell there's a lot of creative thinking about different ways. Oh, I see. Okay, sorry about that, Linda. Did you see that,
clog
Terry?
Linda? Okay, collaboration log. Okay, gotcha. A group tool. Okay. Well, we are past the 2:10 time for the session to be finished, so we need to go ahead and wrap up. Thank you, Nancy, for giving us so much information. This is a really good presentation, and I'm excited about moving forward into mobile learning.
Well, thank you. Appreciate the good conversations, too.
Okay. And goodbye, everybody. See you further on.